Hi everybody, and welcome to this first edition of Mr. Lyle's Quick Eco Tips. Today we're going to have a look at the two-country model, which is in the trade unit of Level 2 Economics. In front of you, you can see a typical two-country model. On the left-hand side, we have New Zealand's clothing market. On the right-hand side, the Chinese clothing market. And what we're going to look at today is a situation where we might see, for some reason, an increase in demand in the Chinese market for domestically made clothing, perhaps because of an increase in income, in other words, a non-price factor. And the effect of that is going to be to give us the new demand curve in China, D to D1, showing an increase in demand at each and every price for clothing by Chinese domestic consumers. The impact of this is interesting on the two-country model. Remember, in the two-country model, we only have two countries in our world market, and the world price, which I've labeled here as P trade, the world price for clothing is determined by supply, or if you like, the balance between supply and demand in New Zealand and China. So the fact that demand has increased in China due to an increase in income means that we now have a reduced surplus in China that I've just marked here on the graph. And that, if there was no price change, would be the new exports out of China. As you can see, though, if we go across and have a look at the New Zealand market, there is the amount that New Zealand imports at the current world price P trade. And you can see that if there is a shift in demand in the Chinese market, reducing their level of exports because Chinese consumers are now consuming more of their own goods, there's actually an imbalance in the world trade market, so that currently at P trade, Chinese exports are less than the imports required to fill the shortage in the New Zealand market. Therefore, the world trade price effectively acts as a mechanism by which the world markets are rebalanced. And so we can estimate a new world trade price here, which we might call, just for ease of reference, PT1. And let me just find my eraser, get rid of all that there. Whoops, I didn't mean to take out the new world price. There we are. So if we look at our new world price that I've estimated, we can actually see that here is the new level of Chinese exports and the new level of New Zealand imports. I hope you can see that these two areas are roughly equal. In other words, world trade is again balanced by an increase in the world trade price. Chinese exports now equal New Zealand imports. In other words, an equilibrium exists in this two-country model world trade market. The world price goes up because the increased demand from Chinese consumers puts upward pressure on prices, because in New Zealand the shortage then exceeds the surplus in China, and therefore effectively we have Chinese consumers bidding up prices, causing the world trade price to increase to a point where new exports are balanced by new imports. In New Zealand, the increased world price causes domestic consumers to demand less. There's the law of demand in action. As the price goes up, quantity demanded decreases. And as the world price goes up, so in New Zealand domestic suppliers of clothing will manufacture more because it's more profitable. That's the law of supply. In China, on the other hand, as the world price goes up, Chinese domestic suppliers will supply more because it's more profitable to do so, but Chinese domestic consumers will consume less, although we can see that they're actually, in fact, consuming still. I can just put a little dotted line there. They're still consuming more than they were at QD China. So there's, why is that not working? Let's try writing that. QD China 1. So I hope this little video recording has been useful, and feel free to email me if you have further questions on this.